let you know that the Prime Minister is back in the country. Nice of you to pop in, Prime Minister. Thanks ever so for leaving the world stage and coming back and running the country you're Prime Minister of. But he's making a statement right now on the NATO summit, and he's saying also about Iran and Israel, urging both countries to honour the ceasefire they've agreed with. I believe they have been in the last 24 hours. Philip Ingram is still with me. He's a former senior military intelligence officer. I want to get your thoughts on what our next guest has to say, because when we talk about welfare reform and the politics of that, and the Prime Minister trying to head off a major rebellion by almost 130 Labour MPs, including committee chairs. But the actual, I suppose, the specifics of the policy, I suppose we should know a bit more about, shouldn't we? So let's talk to Paul Johnson. He's the director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies and joins us now. Good morning to you, Paul.
Morning.
Let's, Janet and John, let's go all the way back. How much are we spending on the whole of the welfare state, sort of roughly per year? And how much of that is things like the disability, incapacity, sickness benefits, which this bill tries to tackle?
Well, it depends how you define the welfare state, of course. But if you're looking at money for people of working age,
not pensions. Okay, yeah.
So not pensions. Let's talk about those separately. But if you're talking about benefits paid to people of working age, we spend just over 100 billion a year, which is quite a lot of money on that. And actually, these benefits for people with health problems or disabilities is a good half of that. So we're looking at a number which has increased really dramatically over the last decade, from less than 40 billion a year pre-COVID, heading towards 65 or even 70 billion a year by the end of this decade. So about half, astonishingly, of the amount that we spend on working age welfare goes in one way or another to people with who claim sickness or disability benefits.
And it's not just that the actual physical amount of money people are getting is going up. Obviously, benefits have had to go up in line with some inflation, but we're talking about a huge number more people able to claim those benefits. Now, the issue that Keir Starmer and Liz Kendall, the Work and Pension Secretary, say they're trying to tackle is to cut our spending on benefits for people who don't need those benefits. That's the idea. So taking, in terms of the point system that which you have to score to be eligible for these benefits. Now, they're not actually going to save any money in terms of the real terms. It's going to carry on going up. It's just going to go up by less, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I should say all of the numbers I quoted and ones I'm going to quote are once you adjust for inflation. So the numbers are going up even after you take account of inflation. But yes, the numbers are going up, and they're going up really very fast. And so the government talks about these reforms saving 5 billion a year by the end of the decade, which they do relative to where we would be without any reforms. Yeah. Nevertheless, we'll be spending an awful lot more than we are today. So just to give you a sense, back in 2020, we were spending about 36 billion on these benefits. Today, we're spending over 50 billion, and the expectation is that without reform, we'd be spending something like 66 billion. So that is a huge increase. If we did nothing, then over the decade, we will be spending an entire 1% of national income more on sickness-related benefits for people of working age than we were.
Yes, and what a lot of us can't work out is, and yes, I know we've got delays in getting treatment on the NHS. I know we had COVID and we had lockdown and all of that, but you know what? So pretty much every other country had similar experiences in Western Europe, and they have not seen an explosion in the number of people seeking to get on sickness or disability benefits. Now, how much of this is people being able to claim for things that they previously haven't claimed? We saw that rise in the number of people claiming for backache over many, many years, and then it became stress, mental health problems, became anxiety. The largest component of people adding on to these roles of claimants tends to change over the years, but other countries haven't seen these sorts of changes either in the types of claimants or indeed in the amount of money. So what's different that's happened here?
Good question. I don't think we really know the answer.
Part of the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
It's worth saying this has happened across all age groups, with particularly big proportionate increases among young people, which are almost entirely driven by various forms of mental health problems, including anxiety and depression and so on, but also increases among older people, that more likely physical issues, and a lot of that, as you say, is backache or musculoskeletal in the terminology. The biggest numbers on these benefits are actually in the poorest areas of the country, so in a lot of those former industrial areas where historically there have been more of those claims. You're right that this is an increase happening in this country, which has not happened in other countries. One possible reason is that actually, relative to a lot of those other countries, our unemployment benefit system is really pretty mean, and if you can get onto these sickness benefits, then that makes a big difference to your the potential for you
this
to
is something
live a decent life.
Our guest at 12 o'clock, actually, about another topic is Fraser Nelson, who did a really interesting documentary about people being trapped in this system and being pushed in this system. Once you're on it, no one assesses you for another 3 years, and and it's a Zoom call. People are not being properly assessed. In terms of the government apparently facing this rebellion, talking about watering down these reforms. If they water down the reforms any more than they're going, these are hardly groundbreaking, game-changing reforms as it is, given that they're not actually going to cut the welfare bill. It's just going to be slightly less than it will otherwise be. Can they water them down anymore?
Well, there's lots of issues there. There's a lot of reforms going on here. I think we've mostly been talking about the personal independence payment benefits. These are the benefits that you get whether you're in work or not. Actually,
although only 1 in 8 people
costs.
Claiming them are in work.
Indeed, most of the people on those benefits are out of work, and they're being made more difficult to claim. And then the additional amount you get if you're on universal credit, this is the means tested benefit, that's being halved. But all of these things are being brought in gradually. So it's not the case that if you're one of these benefits, you suddenly tomorrow are going to get a big cut in your benefit. If you're on the universal credit bit, that will be you'll keep that whilst you're on universal credit. It'll only be new claimants who get the halving in their benefits, and only on personal independence payment, new claimants and people who get reassessed. Now, reassessments happen very infrequently at the moment, and as you say, all of this nowadays is online. This is a change that was introduced during COVID and has not stopped. They've carried on with that, and we're getting twice as many people each day claiming as was the case COVID. So there's all sorts of things you can do to the way that this works. But what else can you do to save money? What's happening with personal independent payment is that it's for those who are not at the most highest level of disability who are seeing cuts. So you could reduce the scale of those cuts, or you could but if you want anything like that scale, you'd think it's only those at the not at the highest level you want to cut from. So you immediately reduce your savings quite significantly. The government's also, of course, promising extra money to help people into work and all of those sorts of things. And I think rather probably not politically the best way of doing it was say, well, we'll start doing that after we've started the cut. So
yes, you kind of need it the other way around.
Change the direction.
This is the issue, isn't it? It's not just the cost to the economy of people going out to work, paying taxes, and their money not going to anything that's actually producing anything, or not buying goods, not anything else, but going towards paying people to not work, some of whom realistically could work. Statistically, it's very unlikely that none of these people couldn't work. But also it's the fact that those people are not producing themselves and not paying tax themselves. So there's a double whammy cost of this. But is it likely they will get a large number of these people back into work, given that the majority of people who go on to PIP, it's an in-work benefit, are in work. The majority of people claiming PIP are not in work. So only 1 in 8 are. So it does look like Anna has the opposite impact in terms of giving people more independence and ability to work. But given that we've seen just gentle ticks up in unemployment, is it actually likely that, and we're not seeing the 2.5% growth we were all promised in the manifesto, is it likely that a lot of these jobs will be found?
Well, it's possible that this will have an effect at helping people into work. And another of the changes, there are lots and lots of changes in this bill. Another of the changes that's being introduced is that the assessment for universal credit will be changed such that it effectively becomes the same as the assessment for personal independence payment, and you won't automatically lose the addition when you move into work. So there's something very problematic about the current system, is if you're on universal credit, you've got the health-related addition. Now, that health-related addition you get because you can't work. So if you do work, you lose it. And that does have or could have a perverse incentive. So you could have positive effects of these changes on numbers in work, but I wouldn't expect it to be enormous. I mean, these are always difficult norms, difficult behaviours to change. But again, you look into the long run, and if we keep the current system, then it's pretty clear this didn't encourage more people than otherwise would be the case to remain out of work. So you do need to change this. I'm pretty clear about that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how many people, whether unemployed or claiming these benefits, are actually already in work, but they're working in the black market.
And of course, the other thing we know is if you've got things like anxiety or so on, some of these mental health problems, being in work is the best thing that you can do.
Work is good for you.
Not being at work is rather bad for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Paul Johnson, very much appreciate you joining us, Director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies. Great to get some just facts on this, non-political, non-partisan. Philip Ingram, listening to all of that, what do you make of what he had to say?
Well, talking common sense. I think there's the message that comes out of this is there's an awful lot more that the government can do to try and deal with it. And one of the things I was thinking of is changing when it's coming to medical certifications for people, taking it away from local GPs. You have someone has got a chronic condition and you've got a consultant grade individual has signed a piece of paper, that's fine. But if you're not under a consultant grade, if it's something else, you then have to go through a formal patient health assessment before you can get that.
But I do think it should be someone medical, but I think it does put a lot of pressure on GPs.
Yes, and local GPs who are in the local community.
That's that long-term relationship that people have.
But take that pressure away from GPs so that people can be independently assessed.
But far too many doctors go, yep, signed off.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
You go, yep, here you go, here's your piece of paper, just get out of, I've got another 10 people waiting to see me.
Exactly.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much indeed. Love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Get in touch. It's not just the politics of it. I mean, it's about real people. I want to make sure that the people who need it get it. The people who don't need it don't get it. But also, you might lose your benefit if you get a job. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, of course you should. But the point is that people choose on lots of those cases, whether it's unemployment benefit, it's not to get the job. We don't want to make a situation where it makes it hard for them to make those choices. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be paying taxes for you if you could be working, because you should morally. I'm sorry, there's no shame in getting benefits if you need the money. That should be a source of pride for all of us that we are doing that for people in society. If you can you don't work, that should be a source of shame. It should be. You should be ashamed of yourself, and we should shame you. I really think we need to bring that back in our society. Well, the duty of care to yourself and to your society.
And we can look at other models across the continent. Having lived in Germany, the Germans would allow you a set period of time where you weren't working. They would then help you go for various job interviews. If you didn't take any of those jobs, they would then give you a job. If you did get the job, you didn't get benefits.
Yeah, can I just say though, not working so well with the million arrivals in 2015, barely any of whom were working. Just saying. Amazing. Again, because you think all those engineering jobs. 11:47 is
the brain surgeons.
Brain surgeons, yeah, that's right. They're the right engineers.